In 2025, the NFC West looks to be one of the more competitive divisions in all of football, as we have four teams that made moves this offseason, and they all think they're in contention to be playoff teams, and hell, maybe even go on an NFC Championship Super Bowl level run. Obviously, this can't be the case, though. So who are the X Factor players that are going to separate these teams? Let's talk about it. If you're the Los Angeles Rams, you have to walk into 2025 feeling like legit Super Bowl threats. Last year, you overperformed, finishing last year, winning the division, going on another great run. You still have Stafford, McVay, Puka Nacua, you brought in Devontae Adams, Kyren Williams. The offensive core is absolutely fantastic, and this young defense only got better. You gave the Philadelphia Eagles their most competitive game of the playoffs, and you were one Jalen Carter sack away from potentially going on the road in a snow game in Philadelphia and beating that roster. If you're Los Angeles, you have to feel like this could be your year. So who are the guys that are going to separate them? My honorable mentions: running back Kyren Williams and Kobe Durant, cornerback. Listen, Kyren Williams, I think right now is pretty consensusly viewed as a top 15-ish running back. But if he could level up just a little bit more and put himself firmly in that top 10 running back conversation, this could be the best offense in all of football. With Stafford, Puka, Devontae Adams, and if you added in a top 10 season from Kyren, chef's kiss. Kobe Durant, the young corner on this team. Yeah, you have a Darius Williams and some other older vets, but Kobe Durant is the guy that this team is going to want to step up and be their cornerback of the future. Can he step up this year and level up and become the cornerback one for this team? But my X factor is defensive tackle Poona Ford. Last year, it's clear that the weakness of this Rams defense was their ability to stop the run. It was seen in both games versus Philadelphia that when you run into an elite rushing offense, the Rams have problems. That's why this team went out and spent money on a Poona Ford to go out there and stop that from being a problem. And I think this is one of the more underrated signings in all of the NFL. I truly mean this when I say Poona Ford might be what makes the Rams from getting eliminated in the divisional round to Super Bowl champions this year. While Ford's counting stats aren't really flashy, he was clearly a great piece for that Chargers defensive line. He spotted an 85.1 overall PFF grade, fifth best in the NFL at defensive tackle, and a 78.8 run defense grade, which was sixth amongst all eligible NFL defensive tackles. This defense is only getting better with guys like Fisk and Verse on the defensive line, but those guys are more of a pass rusher duo. Poona Ford is going to hold down the middle of that defensive line at a very high level. The Rams sneaky have one of the best defensive lines in all of football now, in my opinion, and it's just not being talked about. But when you watch the games, I think you're going to see the difference that Poona Ford makes for this team. It's not the flashy pick. Obviously, Stafford, Puka, Devontae Adams, Jared Verse will all be monsters and will all hold name value. And I could have picked any one of them to talk about. Could have been, hey, Stafford still got it. Puka going to be ready to be the guy. Devontae Adams brought in. Jared Verse, is he going to be Defensive Player of the Year? And clickbaited you into this. But I got to be honest, Rams fans, I think the biggest addition for your team was damn Poona Ford. He is going to be a key player for this season. The Seattle Seahawks made a lot of moves this offseason and brought in a lot of key players that people are expecting to perform in 2025. And those players are going to dictate whether or not they get back to the playoffs or they have a disappointing year. There is a wide range of outcomes for Seattle, and it comes down to whether or not these X Factor players perform. My honorable mentions: DeMarcus Lawrence and Ken Walker. DeMarcus Lawrence, this team brings in to have a true edge rushing threat, but DeMarcus Lawrence has shown a little bit of injury history these past few years in Dallas. One, can he stay healthy? And two, when he's out there, can he get back to elite production? And Ken Walker, on all measures, is an elite back, aside from the numbers he actually puts up. He looks elite when you watch the eye test, but it never comes all the way together. And similar to DeMarcus Lawrence, he's been banged up the past few years. Seattle needs both of these guys to stay healthy and produce. But nobody on this team could be the X factor other than quarterback Sam Darnold. Here's the thing. Last year, Darnold silenced some haters. A lot of people, including myself, thought that he was going to be a career backup, but he went to Minnesota and balled out, making the Pro Bowl. And that is why he got signed by Seattle. but there's still some questions with Darnold. Obviously, last year he showed great ability when it came to big plays, extending plays, and even putting together an overall great year for the Vikings, which they were one win away from being the 1 seed underneath Sam Darnold. But coming out of last season, I have some question marks. Is everything that we thought about Sam Darnold before last season the truth, or did he finally take that step? Or was this a product of system? Could anybody walk into Kevin O'Connell's offense with weapons like Jefferson and Addison and absolutely ball? In Seattle, I'm not saying that you guys don't have good pieces. JSN, an older Cooper Kupp, Ken Walker, and an improved offensive line are certainly good, but it's not the elite situation he was in last year. He goes from an offensive coach in KOC who was coach of the year to Mike McDonald, a defensive coach, a defensive head coach who that's his side of the ball. Sam Darnold is obviously not as in a high value situation as he was last year, but Seattle clearly saw enough from Darnold to think that this guy can perform. Is this a late breakout, or does Sam Darnold kind of turn back into a pumpkin and the fairy tale ends before it begins for Seattle? I don't know, but Darnold is going to clearly dictate this team's season, and it's not just because he plays the most important position in football, but it's because was last year a mirage or the new Sam Darnold? Can 2025 finally be the year that Kyler Murray and the Arizona Cardinals get back to the playoffs? It feels like a conversation we've had the last few years, but there is some reason for Cardinals fans to have hope as we go into this year. They have a couple X-Factor players that I think could make a real difference. My honorable mentions are cornerback Will Johnson and, of course, quarterback Kyler Murray. Will Johnson looks to come in and be the steady cornerback 1 for this team. Fell in the draft due to some injury concerns, but if we did the NFL draft 2 years ago and Will Johnson came out, he would have been a top 5 pick. Which Will Johnson is he? Time will tell. And Kyler Murray, he has these flashes of amazing games. His week 2 performance last season versus the Rams was one of the better football games I saw from a quarterback in all of last season. However, he just can't put it together for a full year. If Kyler Murray could be his best self for a full season, he'd be in MVP conversations. But my X factor for this team is wide receiver Marvin Harrison Jr. Marvin Harrison Jr. was one of the most highly touted wide receiver prospects in a long time, and for good reason. He could do it all, from elite route running, elite hands, solid speed. There was no doubt that Maserati Marv was the total package. And listen, I'm not coming up here to tell you that Marv had a bad rookie season. In fact, when you look at the numbers, I think it's better than we remember. 885 receiving yards and 8 touchdowns. It just felt like there was meat left on the bone by Marv. And it's kinda because there was. See, the numbers that jumped off the page to me when looking back at Marvin Harrison Jr.'s season wasn't the touchdowns or yards. It was the fact he only had 62 receptions on 116 targets last year. That means he wasn't getting high quality looks, and a lot of his stuff was, F it, Marv's down there somewhere, let's try and get him a ball. Which is fine. I like having that confidence in your wide receiver 1, but the Cardinals have to put forward more of an effort to not only get Marv touches earlier in the game, but get him easier catches. That way he can get into space and work. Again, is he the most shifty, speedy guy in the NFL? No, but if anything that we saw at Ohio State is, this guy can make the most out of any touch on the football field. As much as Marvin Harrison Jr. is my X factor here, so is the Cardinals offensive coaching staff, because you can't draft this guy number 4 overall and then not make an effort to get him involved better. It was poor coaching and poor play from Marv. However, if this year the Cardinals can get Marvin Harrison Jr. to be his best self and be a true wide receiver 1 and take that jump that we saw Neighbors and Brian Thomas do last year, where we're potentially talking about this guy as a top 10 wide receiver in football, I don't see why the Cardinals offense can't take a similar leap and get back to the playoffs. And then we get to the San Francisco 49ers, who 2 years ago were in the Super Bowl and their quarterback was in MVP conversations. And last year, despite, yes, it was injury riddled, but they finished last in their division. It has me wondering, what the hell are they? And who the hell is going to determine the outcomes for this team? My honorable mention X factors, Brandon Ayuk and cornerback Deommodore Lenoir. Ayuk obviously coming off the ACL, but this guy was paid to be a wide receiver 1, and he's had recovery time. He's going to be good for week 1. We need to see the Brandon Ayuk we saw in 2023 if this team is going to be a high-level offense in 2025. And then we got Deommodore Lenoir, who, now that Charvarius Ward is gone, is going to be the cornerback one for this team. It's going to be his job to guard Puka Nacua. It's going to be his job to guard Marvin Harrison Jr. It's going to be his job to guard Jackson Smith and Jigba. Is he ready for these challenges? Time will tell. But my X factor for this 49ers team is none other than running back Christian McCaffrey. And let's just put it in basic terms. Here's what we know about the 49ers. When McCaffrey is healthy and playing his best, they win football games. When he's not, they struggle and miss the playoffs. It's just that damn simple. And I have no doubt that the talent that CMC possesses, he's one of the best receiving backs of all time. And he is a great 3-down workhorse for this 49ers team when healthy. The rushing game was excellent in 2023. Hell, this guy won the Offensive Player of the Year. However, I do have my questions on whether or not this guy will ever be the same. 2 weird, unreported but reported Achilles injuries last year on both legs, and then a calf strain that ended his season versus Buffalo has me wondering, is this guy capable of taking on a heavy workload again? And if not, is he healthy enough or explosive enough still to make the most of even limited touches? Or have we seen the tread on the tires fall off? Is McCaffrey in a later, stage of his career? Well, he'll never be able to produce elite numbers again. I don't know. But if he isn't, this team made a big mistake trading away Jordan Mason. Because if he isn't, now they have to rely on Isaac Rendo and Jordan James, who, to be honest, I don't know if they're ready for the moment. But I knew Jordan Mason was last year. Through about 2 months, he was like the leading rusher in football. So this team clearly has faith in McCaffrey's health. And I hope that he is right there with them. I hope he's healthy. I hope we see the best of CMC. But there's no denying he's the X factor for this team. And it's not even really what he is able to do. It's how often is he able to do it? Is he healthy? The best ability is availability. And I question that with Christian McCaffrey. But as always, guys, these are just my thoughts. Be sure to let me know your NFC West X factors in the comment section down below. If you love the NFL and you're not yet subscribed to this YouTube channel, hit that button. I'll catch you next time. Peace.